Agricultural products as well as tourism are very important for Africa, and so is investment, foreign direct investment, which for Kenya last year was about $1 billion. Diaspora still bring about 3 times more. My premise is that, and this is an appeal and a call to a leadership, there are those forgotten Africans, the diaspora, and we have 2 categories of them. We have what we call historical diasporas. These are those, we remember, it's 400 years since we had the first forced transatlantic migration, or so-called slave trade, when our men and women were taken away forcefully from us to North America, to the Caribbean. And it's 600 years since the first slave trade to the Gulf area happened. I'm delighted that the Ghanaian president has named this particular year the Year of Return, and there are many Afro-Caribbeans, African-Americans, Afro-Europeans, or even Afro-Asians who are very keen to re-engage. In this very conference, we had participants from Guyana, from Jamaica, those African Caribbeans who are saying, look, it's time to reconnect with home, and we are hoping we're going to take advantage. I'm also glad that during the AU Summit in February in Addis, President Kenyatta, my president, did host a dinner in honor of the Year of Return. I think the call to our African brothers and sisters, and Kwame Nkrumah made it very clear that as long as you're African, you're black, regardless of where you're born, you're African. And it's an appeal that I want to make, that both historical as well as contemporary diasporas need to come back home. And this is why we are delighted to be in this convention. Right.
Now, you've just mentioned that you've attended 4 Africa summits ever since it started. What are you hoping Transform Africa will actually do to help the diaspora?
My hope is that the leadership, and in these sessions, we're having sessions on ADDICT, that's Africa Diasporas in ICT. We recognize that we are living in the times of the 4th Industrial Revolution, which is wired and powered by technovation, ICT, or informatique, as some people call it, or information technology. Recognizing that that's what's likely to lead the next frontier, we have quite a big, substantial amount of African knowledge that's not being tapped. I remember the last time we were here, I was in the Transform Africa Summit about 3 years ago. The 3rd World Academy of Sciences in Trieste, Italy, now renamed the World Academy of Sciences. The CEO, Professor Murenzi Romain, who used to be a Minister for Education here, unveiled a report on scholarly publications, global. It was so stunning that Africa's share in global scholarly publications was only 2%. 2% only. And of that 2%, 7% was only from 2 countries, South Africa and Egypt. So the automatic question is, where are the Nigerian professors, the Rwandese doctors, the Kenyan engineers, the Ugandan lawyers, the accountants, where are they? How come they are not publishing in scholarly journals? But then in that meeting we did raise the question that, why don't we change the narrative? Instead of focusing on the 2%, how about the 98%? How much of it is African? Because even though we know it's American or Japanese or Chinese or German, we have our own people in those countries as diaspora, the forgotten Africans. And I could say the official U.S. Statistics Bureau indicate that the average Kenyan born in America is more educated than the average American. And this could be said of other Africans, Ghanaians and others as well. So they're fairly well educated outside. How do we tap not only into the financial resource of the diasporas, but also the knowledge resource? It's in this regard that we are happy that in September, together with the Austrian government, we have the first Africa's Knowledge Conference in Nairobi, looking into how do we tap into the skill that Africans have both within and outside the continent.
Right. It's quite interesting that you actually mentioned that diaspora actually include bringing a lot of money to the economy of the country. And you mentioned that in Kenya, it brought about over $1 billion. Exactly, $3 billion every year. What are some of the challenges that the diaspora face in wherever they are? And what do you think the government should do to actually tackle these challenges?
Thank you, Zwena. The immediate thing to do is mainstream the diaspora, make them feel recognized, appreciated. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. The Filipinos are already doing it. The Indians are already doing it. The Chinese, the Koreans are already doing it. Actually, those who took innovation to China, to Korea, and the countries I've counted, Malaysia and all, largely were their diasporas. Even Israel, even Ireland. In fact, Ireland's a good example where there are only 4 million Irish at home, yet 70 million outside. So the economy is largely driven by the diaspora. So what the Filipino example, there are 10 million Filipinos outside the country, and they take into their country a whooping $40 billion every year. Okay? Now, the reason why that's happening is that the government has laid a red carpet for diasporas. The incentives that are given to foreign investments, and I am glad that the Secretary General of UNCTAD, Dr. Honorable Mukisa Kitui, who is one of our leading diaspora ambassadors, did say that, look, to grow the local indigenous companies, African companies, let's also give them the same tax incentives and breaks that we give to foreign investments. So currently even the diasporas don't get it. And yet it's foreign money. You know, if, say, a Rwandese, say, working in South Africa brings money back home to Kigali, it should be treated like foreign investment because it's money coming from outside the country. This guy or lady would have decided to invest in South Africa. Or if he's working in Australia, say Canberra, he would have decided to invest it there. But he or she decides to bring it home, sometimes because the returns here are better. Why don't we make it even more attractive for more to come? So our appeal is, let's find incentives. And I'm glad some African countries are already doing this. Ethiopia, for example. The diasporas, when they participate in real estate, if they develop a property in Addis or any of the Ethiopian towns, they get 70% collateral covered by government. So they can go easily to a bank and get a loan, 70% guaranteed by government. That's one incentive. I'm glad also some countries are establishing already diaspora funds, Rwanda being one of them. We are working with our partners, Africa Diaspora Fund, to launch a fund in Dubai that's globally regulated to give comfort to the diaspora, because some diasporas don't want to invest because they fear their money will be lost. There are many stories of people sending money even to relatives and it doesn't go to the intended purpose. But if we have a diaspora fund like we're trying to establish that's regulated globally and has got a local presence, so we would have offices in New York, in Tokyo, in London, places where there are significant African diasporas. And it will be a fund owned for and by the diasporas themselves.